The controversy over Tottenham's 2-0 home defeat to Manchester City. The game that seemingly has stopped Arsenal from winning their first Premier League title in over 2 decades goes on. The controversy continues. All of the comments from my videos over the last couple of the days have been controversial, have been certainly assertive, in some cases aggressive, and also abusive. This is clearly a topic that is dividing Tottenham Hotspur fans. And I have to say, I've been a little surprised by how strong the feeling has been. What I haven't been surprised about is that not everybody feels the same way. And of course not. It's football. It's subjective. You're absolutely allowed to have your own viewpoint. Just in the same way that I think I am too. But some of the vitriol that has been being spouted, not only on my channel, but also to some of the podcasts I've listened to, and online and on places like TalkSport, wherever you can get your football content. It has been at times vitriolic. So what I thought I'd do is try and give an audience, try and give a sounding board for some of those people who have felt so strongly about it that they have written in the comments. I'm going to go through some of those comments and tell you how I feel about it in today's episode of the Spurred On Podcast. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Please do press like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, go over to the podcast platforms, give me a follow, a subscribe, and a rating there. And if you want to become a Spurred On Pro or a Patreon member, it's just £1 a month. All the details in the description box below. But let's get on to some of those comments. Like I said, it's been a fascinating week to be a Tottenham Hotspur fan. A very rare, perfect storm has happened, and it has questioned a lot of people's belief in the club as a whole, and certainly in the Ange Postecoglou project. So I'm going to start with @ZicoWilco60, who says this: I really tried to support Man City, but as soon as we kicked off, I was fully Spurs. I realised that night I love Spurs more than I hate Arsenal. That was in capitals. I was Ange out, but I'm fully Ange in now after hearing his rant. Well, thank you, ZicoWilco60, for your message. Interesting, isn't it? Because I was pretty steadfast in my belief from before the game and during the game that I didn't want Tottenham to win it. However, your instinct kicks in, doesn't it? And when Tottenham were playing well, I was excited. When we made chances, I wanted them to go in. When Son went through, my instinct was absolutely to kind of get as excited as I possibly could and want that goal to go in. But when it didn't, I remembered that I wasn't sure that I wanted Tottenham Hotspur to get a result in that game. And it sounds like Zico Wilco was similar. And he made the decision during the game that he knew he had to support his club. And that is absolutely right. Good for you. And that's how you feel. However, can you be sure, Zico Wilco, or can you be sure any of you people at home who are so angry about any of us who wanted Manchester City to win that game, can you be sure that right now, if Arsenal were on the verge of winning that Premier League by just getting a win at home to Everton on Sunday, that you wouldn't be absolutely gutted at the moment? I know I would be, because the Arsenal fans would be everywhere in their Arsenal shirts all around where I live. I live a mile away from the borough of Islington, and they have just come out in their droves in the last 18 months and really given it to all Spurs fans, because Spurs have had a difficult time. Now, what I will say is, when we got to the Champions League final in 2019, did Tottenham fans come out of the woodwork? Did we give it to Arsenal? Was that kind of 3-week period where it looked like we could win the Champions League before they ever did? Was that the happiest time to be a Spurs fan in my whole life, to be a football fan? Absolutely. And I'm hopeful that we can get back to that. But what I don't want is for Arsenal fans to lord it over us before we can get back to that level of success and excitement. And I think Ange is the man to take us there. I really do. But fair play to you, Zico Wilco. You're fully Ange in now. I think it's a bit reactive to be Ange out before that. You know, he's taken us from 8th to 5th without Harry Kane. The football has improved immeasurably. I'm really surprised when I hear anyone saying they're Ange out, to be honest, when he's done such an incredible job. Sure, there have been difficult moments and difficult, the run of 5 defeats in 6 is a difficult moment. But has he improved us? Has he brought progress? Absolutely. Next up, @MGPele77. No offence, but I think you guys think that our rivalry is somehow immeasurable to any other rivalry in the world. That is bollocks. He is Greek, for goodness sake. Just look up some of those rivalries. It is so condescending to continue bringing this point up. Don't blame Ange for our fan base requiring therapy for our fear of being shithoused by WhatsApp groups. Let's admit it was us fans putting ourselves ahead of the team. Was partying like drunken school kids really necessary in the aftermath? Unfortunately, this is what we've become. Apologists for celebrating others' failures. Thank you, MG Pele77 for writing in. I appreciate that. The thing that I would say is your argument there is totally valid. Of course it is. But I think it's suggesting that no other club would, or no other club's fan base would act in the same way. And there is evidence that has been put up on Twitter and across social media this week of Arsenal fans in that week when Spurs were in the Champions League final, who were all admitting that they would do whatever it took for Tottenham not to win that. They would lose the Europa League final that they were in. They would happily not win another trophy. So I think it's not just about Spurs fans. You're talking about this is what we've become, apologists for celebrating others' failures. No, what I would say is modern football fandom is as much about that as anything else almost. And that's especially because it's so hard to win anything now. Because of Man City and the financial doping, and before that Chelsea and the way that they bought everything. It's very difficult to win anything. So getting excitement as a football fan from your biggest rival's failures, I don't think that's anything that you should really abuse, because it's so much part of what modern day football fandom is about. Look, I totally understand what you're saying about the Greek rivalries, and obviously he was at Celtic where the rivalry there is, but I don't think it's condescending to suggest that Big Ange Postecoglou doesn't know what it feels like to be a Spurs fan. He doesn't. He wouldn't say he was a Spurs fan. He's never been a Spurs fan. He goes to clubs for 2-3 seasons usually, does an amazing job and then moves on. And I'm not condescending Ange Postecoglou by saying he doesn't understand what it's like to have been amongst Arsenal fans taking the piss out of us for my entire lifetime as a Tottenham fan. So that's kind of my argument to that MG Pele77, but I appreciate you writing in, I really do. At CVO Art, this is a bit of a long one. It was mentioned earlier this year how much Ange was transforming Tottenham into a club that top players from around the world would now be attracted to joining. Well, after the last few days, you can kiss that goodbye. This summer window, Ange's job to convince players why they should sign for Spurs over any other EPL club has become 1,000 times more difficult than it was just 7 days ago. Who the hell would want to play for a club whose fan base thinks it's fine to cheer for the opposition at their home ground, all in the name of some petty, small-minded spitefulness for their local rivals? The majority of Spurs fans have made it very clear this week. They are more afraid of being teased down the pub on the weekend by some random loser in a Gunners shirt than have their team qualify for Champions League football. Nobody with any level of self-respect is interested in joining that tribe. This summer window, if I'm a high-level player who wants to play in the EPL with priorities of winning trophies over a paycheck, Spurs are now at the bottom of my list, and they will remain there for the next decade or more. This astonishing, disgusting outpouring of blatant disloyalty from the fan base, and from the smallest of vloggers to high-profile pillocks like Jamie O'Hara, won't be forgotten anytime soon. Ange knows this, and it's no doubt a big reason why he's so angry and disillusioned right now. So well done, Spurs fans. You've just guaranteed yourself no silverware for another 2 decades. You get what you deserve. So thank you at CVO Art. I don't feel strongly that you are actually a Spurs fan, but a very well-written comment. I personally disagree with most of it. I think it's sweeping generalizations. I really don't think footballers, as we've been told all week, they're professional. They don't think about what the fans are thinking. They didn't throw the game. They played incredibly hard and incredibly well, and I don't think they care that a football fan base decided that not supporting their club, or in fact it wasn't even that the fans in the stadium weren't supporting, they were just a bit more apathetic than usual. I don't think the footballers really care about that. I honestly don't. I think you're getting a bit swept away, and maybe you're an Arsenal or a Chelsea fan trying to have a dig at Spurs. I really think that Ange Postecoglou and the way that he plays football and what he says to any of those players that Tottenham are interested in this summer will be far more important than those footballers seeing what happened this week and thinking, I'm not going to go there. I really don't think so. And especially that won't be their main priority over the thought of the money that they're going to earn potentially from joining a top 6 Premier League club. So when you're saying you've just guaranteed yourself no silverware for another 2 decades, you get what you deserve, well, let's face it, there was absolutely no guarantee that if we'd won that game against Man City, we were going to get in the Champions League, because we still would have needed, on the final day, Aston Villa to lose at Crystal Palace. Now, sure, Crystal Palace are playing well, but again, you've gone to sweeping generalisations there. It's a well-written comment. I appreciate you sending it in, but let's face it, There are no guarantees in any of this stuff. And yes, Ange was angry, but I would not be surprised if in tomorrow's press conference he comes out and tries to calm things down a bit and explains exactly what he was talking about. And I'm very confident, based on our more recent recruitment, that we are going to get in the right kind of players who have the correct attitude, who want to play for Ange Postecoglou and have the technical attributes to really make big additions to this Tottenham team, who have done so much better this season than they have for the previous few seasons. I'm excited about it. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about it, if you think I'm on the right path thinking like this. But at CVO Art, I really think that your thoughts that players will now not want to come to Tottenham Hotspur because of this, I don't think so. If you look at some of the rivalries around the world, look at Galatasaray, Besiktas in Turkey, Glasgow Rangers, Glasgow Celtic, all of these big rivalries, Liverpool, Everton, wherever you look, players want to come and play for these big clubs and these big rivalries, and they do not pinpoint specific games and think, oh, I don't want a part of that. I think that is unlikely. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. I really appreciate it, and please do keep sending your comments in. I really appreciate that too. Please do give this video a like, press subscribe if you haven't already, go over to the podcast platforms, give me a subscribe and a follow there, and like I said before, just £1 a month to be a Spurred On Pro member or a Patreon member. All the details in the description box below. Most importantly, with a big game against Sheffield United coming up at the weekend, come on you Spurs.